welcome back to our channel. We're the Garza Twins. I'm Britta.
And I'm Carly.
We would love it if you would subscribe down below and hit the thumbs up if you like this video. We've been stocking our book videos and we were trying to do quarterly top 2, bottom 2 books we've been reading, and so we're getting back into it. So basically this has been since, you said September. Well, so yeah, we haven't done a review since September. So we did do our favorite books of the year in December, but we didn't really talk about our bottom 2. So basically our bottom 2 books can be from September to now, March, and then our top 2 are only from 2023.
Well, one of mine is from the end of December because I didn't put it in our video.
Okay, so we're going to start with our least favorite. We think this is helpful because some of these have a lot of hype behind them. So like we're telling you we wouldn't read them, so maybe that's helpful for you. My first one was the most disappointing. It's Anon Please by Dumois. I bought this the day it came out on Amazon, like the physical copy. I was so excited. If you're unfamiliar with Dumois, she's basically a celebrity gossip account, which it sounds worse than it is. But she started in 2020 and has like over 1 million Instagram followers, and we like it because she does a series called Sunday Spotted. So people will submit to her during the week if they see celebrities out and about and where, and she'll never post in real time for their safety obviously, but she'll post on Sunday like where celebrities were during the week. We just find it interesting. And then she also does this You've Got Mail series during the week. It's all on Instagram stories, where people will write in, like she'll ask like what's the hot gossip, and people will write in like celebrity stories as blind, so names are not named. And then she also has another account called Reveal Moi where she posts them and people guess in the comments. And so it's fairly harmless because a lot of them are hard to guess in my opinion, and so I think it's fairly harmless. But we just find it so interesting and we love her account. And so when she came out with this book, I was like, this is amazing. It's a fictional book, but it's about her life and how she got her start as Dumois. So in the book, the main character is Cricket Lopez, and she's an assistant to a celebrity stylist, and her boss is like truly awful, and she had started Dumois years before and kind of built a little following, and then she basically decides to pick it back up when she's kind of at an all-time low with her job. And she breaks the story of, I'm like forgetting because I read this so long ago, but she breaks a scandal. Oh, it was the Army Hammer scandal,
which is the real life story.
Yeah, and so that's how she got, like, she basically got a bunch of followers at once, and then from there she just blew up because she had actually known Army. I don't know if this is true or not, but in the book she had known Army Hammer in real life because her boss was his stylist, and she said that he was like a great person and really liked him. So I think in the book she was kind of, you know, going back and forth on, do I want to break this story? Like, I know him, I think he's a good guy. But then at the end of the day, there were all these survivors that were like looking for a voice, and she gave them that voice. So I did like that aspect of like her using her platform for good. But overall, I just felt like there was literally no plot to this book aside from this piece. There was no plot, and it wasn't interesting at all. Okay, one of my least liked books was The Valentine's Hate by Sydney Halston, and I read this because I saw it was new, I think on the library, I don't even remember, around Valentine's Day, and it was like one of my goals to read more seasonal books. So I was really excited about this, and I just didn't like it. So it follows Lizzie and Brian, and you meet them as kids when they're like in 2nd grade on Valentine's Day, and he's really rude to her. And then fast forward, like, I don't even know, like 20 years later, they're in their 30s and they reunite on an airplane. They're going to, I think it's like somewhere in the Caribbean. And they end up fake dating each other. She's there for her best friend's wedding, and he's a famous author now, and so he's there promoting his books that are being turned into films. And by coincidence, they're staying at the same resort, which I feel like would never happen. And basically, they both benefit from this fake dating trope. So sometimes I like the fake dating trope, but oftentimes I don't. And this is one of the cases I didn't. I felt like it went from like 0 to 100 really quickly of them literally hating each other's guts. Like, this wasn't like oh, I just don't like you. Like, they hated each other mutually, and then like were like hooking up, and it just felt so unnatural to me. I didn't picture them together. I didn't like him at all. I felt like he was super selfish, and like couldn't actually picture him in a healthy relationship. Like, it didn't, nothing about it fit right to me. I liked some of the secondary characters, and I did like Lizzie. So I gave this book a 2, but I don't know. I feel like there has to be better Valentine's books out there. It just didn't do it for me. I really need to feel the love between the characters in order to like love a book, and I did not feel that with these two. The other book that was my least favorite since September was Small Town Big Rumors by Willow Winters. This book I also gave a 2. It's basically about a girl named Magnolia. She has a one-night stand with a guy named Brody, and then 4 years later she sees him in her small town in South Carolina, and she basically doesn't know if the father, oh, and I should say she had a baby, and she doesn't know if the father is Brody or her friends with benefits Robert, who has been in her life since, like, basically they were dating, they broke up, and then she hooked up with Brody, and she obviously was trying to raise this baby alone, and so Robert, even though they were broken up, like took care of her all these years. So she's going back and forth, like she doesn't know who the father is. She starts dating Brody again. I just felt like there was no plot. Again, like the plot was her figuring out who the father is, but that's not like a storyline. Like that's like, that should be like one chapter, like, oh, we're gonna do this paternity test. And so I felt like there was just no story. The writing was pretty, like she spoke in hyperbole a lot, which sometimes is just too much for me. Like I don't like the drama in like the writing most of the time. Would not recommend. This was one that I felt like I saw on TikTok. It gets a 3.73 on Goodreads, but like I would just not even, I don't even know how I finished this book, honestly. It was so bad. Okay, next up on my didn't like list is Beautiful Player by Christina Lauren. This I have seen on many YouTube videos and some TikToks saying that they love this book. It gets a 4.27, and I gave it a 2. I will say I liked it better than The Valentine's Hate. I almost gave this book a 3, but I think because I was so severely disappointed because I had high hopes, I like couldn't get past, I had to give it a 2. Basically this follows Hannah and Will, and Hannah knows Will because her older brother, he's her older brother's best friend. They were roommates in college. So Will would like come back home with her brother for like Thanksgiving, and basically like he was just always her older brother's best friend that she had a huge crush on. And she ends up moving to New York City, and she doesn't know anyone there. She's a chemist, so she's like constantly just in the lab, doesn't really have a social life. So her family tells her like, you really need to get out there, you're young, you need to like enjoy your time, not just be working all the time. And her brother suggests that she meet up with Will because he also lives in the city. So they meet up, they start going running together, and I actually loved how this book started. It was like, oh, and I loved the writing. Christina Lauren is still like so good at writing, but I felt like so much of this book was just them hooking up and like lots of spice, and I like that in books, but not like the entire book. Like I felt like these two people, I actually felt like were so made for each other. They were perfect together. They had a pretty big age gap, but they just, yeah, they really were perfect together, and I saw it, and I didn't need all the like spicy scenes to like remind me that they're compatible. Like I wanted to see them more, I think, like on dates or just in the real world. I feel like we only ever saw them running in the mornings together, and they would usually, like, it would usually be about Hannah's like inner dialogue of her freaking out about them hooking up. So I just I wanted to see them more in the real world together. And I also loved like his friend group in this book, and I felt like the glimpses we got into them and like their lives were so awesome. Like so much witty banter, again, like so much great dynamic characters, and I just wanted more of that. Like I wanted to see them all hanging out together, not just like again, not just like all the spicy scenes. So I feel like it was just unbalanced, and again, I just loved Hannah and Will, and I think if this was more of like a romance versus like a spicy book, it would have been a 5 out of 5 for me. So that's why I gave it a 2, because I was just so disappointed. Okay, by far my favorite book that I've read so far this year is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I don't know the actual release date because I got an advanced reader's copy, but I want to talk about it because I think by the time this video goes up, maybe it'll be out. But I love Abby. Like, I love her personality. If you guys don't follow her on TikTok, she's hilarious and she has the cutest dogs ever. But I was reading her books before I even started following her on TikTok. She's definitely one of my favorite authors. I just like how all of her characters have like such good witty banter. Like, they're funny, but then they also have depth. It's not just like single-noted characters, which I appreciate. So yours truly is about Brianna Ortiz. She is in the other books. Like, this is basically a series where each book is kind of like a spin-off of the other. So Brianna finally gets her book, and she just got divorced. I should say she's a doctor. She just got divorced, and her brother moves in with her. He has a failing kidney and he needs a transplant ASAP. He's younger than her. So she's kind of in like a tough spot in her life. Like, you know, she's in kind of a low point. And then a new doctor starts at the hospital, Jacob Maddox, and she at first gets like a bad impression of him. She thinks he's gunning for this promotion that she wants really badly. But then she quickly realizes he's actually a good guy, and they start writing letters to each other because Jacob has really bad social anxiety, and so he kind of gets tongue-tied around Brianna, and she kind of takes that the wrong way, like takes it as he's being, you know, rude. So they start writing letters to each other so that they can kind of form this friendship, and it works really well. They become fast friends. And then, this isn't giving anything away because I checked, this is in the synopsis, but Jacob ends up getting tested to see if he's a match for Brianna's brother for the kidney, and he is. So he decides he's going to give her brother his kidney, and he wants it to be anonymous, but of course it comes out. Like, they work in a hospital together, they have like colleagues, and so it comes out that he's doing this for her, and she feels like she can never repay him, but he asks her if she will pretend to be his girlfriend because his brother is getting married to his ex, which we've seen that done so many times, I feel like. But he basically doesn't want his family to feel bad for him. He wants them to think he's moved on, which he has, but he doesn't have a partner. And so it's the fake dating trope, but they're also best friends, so you can see like where things are going. And Jacob is like a perfect human being. I know that in so many books we always talk about how we love the male character and we don't like the females. I love them both. I really, really do. But I love Jacob. He is, like Abby puts in here, that he's her best cinnamon roll character yet, and he is just so perfect. Like, anyone that would give a kidney to a stranger obviously is a good person, and just time and time again he like proves himself as like a good man for Brianna. So overall, I love their love story. It was so believable to me, the way that they transitioned from like friends to lovers, and Abby's best book yet by far. One of my favorite books I have read thus far was The Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. I read this. Oh, we didn't talk about that? No, I read this at the end of December. Maybe I put it in a weekly, but yeah, I couldn't include it in the yearly favorites because I had like, I think I was currently reading it when we filmed it. But it was, I still think about this book. It basically follows Nora and Charlie. Oh wait, no, that's Book Lovers. It's Andrew and Molly. This book follows Andrew and Molly, and basically they met like back in college, and he was dating one of her roommates, and they just sort of knew each other, and then ended up being on the same plane going from Chicago to, are they from Ireland? Ireland. Yeah, Ireland. And they both, like for various reasons, can't ever fly out, I think, until Christmas Eve. So they end up being on the same flight every year home for Christmas. And it just sort of like follows, there's a lot of like backtracking and you seeing them on flights from when they were much younger and then on to current day. And they basically just build like a really strong like friendship, but they don't see each other much outside of like that one time a year when they're on this long flight from Chicago to Ireland. And on the current timeline, they end up kissing under mistletoe in the airport, and then it like sets off this whole like, oh, am I missing something that's right in front of me? It's just so good. Again, I just love when two people seem perfect together, and that's exactly what this was. Like, there was no, like, I guess they were kind of, they're not enemies at the beginning, but they were just acquaintances. But to see them become like best friends, and then
to be like, how could you be so dumb and not be together for like 10 years? But then just how like happy they were that, I don't know, it just was such a like heartwarming book. I'm doing a bad job describing it, but it just felt so natural, so real, so right, so
well, the whole thing is
like authentic.
The present day flight,
where
goes like
she's
crazy, trying to get him back.
Yeah, like there's weather delays and there's so many things going on. So yeah, their normal like one-way flight turns into like planes, trains, and automobiles, and like through that you sort of see them just like fall in love, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. I loved it. I still think about this all the time. Yeah, I read it in mid-December.
It's so good. Okay, and my other top book of the year so far is the Inheritance Game series. I'm on the third one right now, so I'm almost done with it, but I'll just kind of talk about the first one. So it's about a girl named Avery Grams, and she's in high school, and she basically is getting these letters that she is needed at a will reading for Tobias Hawthorne in Texas, and her sister doesn't give her the letters because she thinks it's a scam. So then Tobias's grandson Grayson comes to Avery's high school and is like, we need you to get on a plane and come to Texas. And the sister is like, what? I didn't think this was real. Like, can you explain? And Avery's like, I've never even met your grandfather, like why would I be needed? But she goes to Texas, she goes to this will reading. It's very Knives Out-esque because the grandfather was a billionaire, like super, super wealthy, and all of his family is present at this will reading in this like massive old mansion, so very Knives Out. And he ends up leaving his fortune to Avery, and she doesn't know why. She's like trying to figure out how she knows this man. His family is obviously, they feel very jolted and betrayed because they get nothing. And even like he has a charity, or several charities, and those all get left to Avery. So like basically the family is left without jobs or money. And the one stipulation is that Avery needs to live in the Hawthorne house for 1 year so she can get the fortune. And basically in the first book you kind of see her on this journey trying to figure out how she knows Tobias Hawthorne. Lots of twists and turns. He was a man that loved riddles and puzzles and scavenger hunts, so she's kind of like, he's left clues throughout the house, and she ends up going on this like journey with the Hawthorne grandson. So there's Grayson, Jameson, Nash, and Xander, and she ends up developing a crush on Jameson and Grayson because they're the closest to her age. And so you kind of see like the love triangle form. They're helping her figure out how she knew their grandfather, and then at the very end you kind of see what this whole puzzle was like leading up to. And spoiler alert, she does know him in real life. She has met him. So I don't want to give too much away, but if you like suspenseful novels, I think the series is so good. Like, it really kept me glued to the page. I like the writing style, like the cadence of the book. I really like Avery as a main character. I like the Hawthorne brothers. They're all really different from each other, so I thought the author depicted that well, how brothers can be so different but yet really loyal to one another. My only thing was, because it is a YA novel or series, it was very like surface level when it comes to romance, which makes sense. Obviously they're in high school, but I kind of wish they were a little bit older, like college age, and it would be like a little more mature, and I would have given it 5 stars, but I'm giving it 4, but still a good series. Okay, my next 5 out of 5 star that I've read recently is Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. And this one doesn't come out until June, and I hate talking about it, but I loved it so much I need to talk about it now. But I will remind you guys as it gets closer. But this is the same author as Nora Goes Off Script, which we both loved last year. And it follows Wyatt and Sam, and it's very, very, very similar to Every Summer After by Carli Fortune and Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. Like, both of those have really similar storylines. But Wyatt and Sam, they have beach houses next to each other on Long Island, and they just grow up like seeing each other every summer and really like becoming best friends. And then eventually when they're 17 they become more than friends, and then it sort of jumps ahead to where they are now. They're both in their 30s, and Sam is going back to the beach house with her now fiance, and she hadn't been in like 4 years. You kind of see like some things that had happened with her parents and like Wyatt's family back, that sort of made her not want to go back there and not want to relive that.
But she goes back and brings her fiance, and Wyatt just so happens to be next door. He's staying at the house for a few weeks, and so they see each other for the first time in over 10 years, and obviously that like brings up a lot of mixed feelings, and it's just, again, this really felt so realistic to me. Like everything about this felt like it could have happened to a friend. Like it's like, yeah, some of it was like pretty crazy, but I feel like especially Sam coming back into her own, like she describes like being in her 30s and living in a city, she lives in New York, and feeling like she sort of made herself into this person that's like really organized, has like a beautiful apartment, has a really great job, like never makes mistakes. And then when she goes back to the beach house, she, like, her parents are artists, so she like loves to like paint and be a little sloppy. Like she talks about her parents' house and how it's just kept so disorganized because they're artists, and they like in this, their summer house is like their, you know, fortress, and they don't need to like keep it super tidy. And she just talks about how like she loves, like she just finds herself again at this beach house and finds herself in her child-like state. And I think that that is so relatable, like as you get older and then you look back at who you were as a child. Like I think a lot of times you can connect a lot of who you are as an adult to exactly who you were as a child, and she just lost that for a while. So I loved that it wasn't just a romance, but about her like reconnecting with herself. And there's a lot of things that happen at the end of the book, big changes, all positive, and it's so good. I loved Every Summer After and Love in Other Words, and I was like, oh my gosh, another book that has like a same plot line. Like there's no way I'm gonna love this one as much, and I loved it just as much. So I don't know, if I had to pick a favorite of the three, it's so hard. I think I would pick Every Summer After, but this is a really close second. Like I loved it just as much as Love in Other Words. So highly recommend this book. It is so good. It's gonna be such a good like beach read. Like I know that it's gonna be one of those that you just eat up. I might even reread it in June because I loved it that much. So good. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and let us know what you've been reading down below.